Hello and welcome to today's session. I hope you're all doing amazingly well from whichever part of the world you are watching. I continue to be very immersed in my book and thinking about what I'm going to write in each chapter. And today I would like to talk about the filter you cannot turn off. If you are going to build a hotel with a coherent wellness offering. Now, this comes from one of my personal experiences. And obviously, having been in this industry now for a long time, had success with wellness concepts and also failed miserably with them. I can safely say I know what works and I know what doesn't work. And many times that is almost instinct, just experience that you just gained through the years. Now, trying to actually articulate that and give a reason why to that gut instinct is another kind of worms that I'm trying to work through. But today I'm going to give a shot at one of them. It's been quite a long time since I have completely stopped trying to give people what they're asking for. Now, I know that's going to sound controversial. Stay with me because here is what I have noticed that normally when you hoteliers come to me, there is a big difference between what you understand that you are asking for and the expectation of what will be required of you to make that happen. So, this is when I pause and I see the gap between the vision you carry for your hotel and the wellness offering and what you were able and willing to do to build that. And there will always be a gap between what we aspire and what, we think we need to do in order to achieve a certain goal. That's only normal. And many times we want to work towards that and we are willing and able to do anything that is required. But when it comes to wellness offerings in hotels, this is where I see many hoteliers kind of trip because there is this difference between what you understand, what your vision actually carries, and the work that is going to be required of you and your team and your resources to see that past the finish line. And this stems from an experience I had not too long ago. Now, I had worked with this client. We will call her Joe Blogs, just to call her Joe Blogs. And we had worked since the beginning when they had implemented the hotel, when the whole wellness concept was created. And it really was the cat's meow when it was implemented nearly 20 years ago. And now, 20 years down the line, there are certain aspects, there are many aspects of that wellness offering that have become quite unremarkable. They're lackluster, they don't speak for themselves. And she wanted to re-engage. So she re-engaged my services a few years ago. So this is probably around 10, 15 years down the line from when I had first initially set up the hotel and the wellness offering within the hotel. And I remember distinctly when I handed over the concept, the new wellness concept that I thought would work for them where they are right now, given the reality, given the audit I had done. And I remember her looking at me and thinking, she looked quite underwhelmed with the entire concept. And I could tell she was not remotely impressed. And because we have that relationship of trust, that transparency, she mentioned that she was expecting something far more wow, something far better. That, you know, if she's reaching out to me, if we're going to work together, she's definitely expecting a concept that is otherworldly. That's my words, but something that is far more robust, far more distinctive, that's going to differentiate them in the market. And I remember seeing her, that look of being underwhelmed, of not being impressed. And it didn't, obviously as a consultant, you're looking there and you're thinking, no, that's not what you want your clients to feel. You definitely do not want the look of someone who's absolutely underwhelmed with what you have given them. But I resisted the temptation to people please in this moment. And I didn't change my proposal for what I thought that wellness concept was because I knew them and I cared deeply for them. And I could have easily created a fantastic, remarkable, very different wellness concept. And I could have also charged a pretty penny for it too. And I could have just let them deal with the implementation of it, or I could have helped them implement it and then left them to steward that amazing concept that I knew they were not equipped to manage and steward over a number of years, just the way the property has been set up, just the way the business is set up. But I didn't. I stayed my ground and I explained why. And she understood perfectly. And she was very open to it. And of course, she had that feeling of frustration. Of course, it's that moment where you deeply connect with yourself and you think, okay, I need to step back and I really need to think how I want to take my hotel business forward in the next decade, the next 2 decades, the next part of the legacy. And I told her that just the current setup, the system of her property was not positioned or built in a way that could handle a complete overhaul, that could even handle a very different wellness concept. And from that experience, from that day on, I created a filter with 3 simple questions that I'd like to share with you today. And the first question is, why do you actually want to change your wellness offering? Or if you've not built your wellness offering, what wellness offering? I mean, why do you want this particular wellness offering? And the answer tends to whittle down to 3. Obviously, these answers don't come up straight away, but if I were to classify them, there are a version of these 3 examples. The first is you want to differentiate yourself. You have looked at your market, you have looked at your competitors, and you've decided that your current wellness offer is no longer distinctive enough. You know that. You know that the client, the type of client you are attracting is not 100% what you want. Or you're looking at other types of clientele, the new one, the new emerging consumer, and you want to capture that audience in your hotel. And wanting to differentiate yourself using wellness is a very valid reason. I mean, that is why a number of hoteliers add wellness to their offering, and it's perfectly sensible and also it makes business sense to do it. But using wellness only due to the differentiation it'll give you is not enough. It is not strong enough to make you want to see whatever you're creating past the finish line. You need a why. Why do you want to differentiate using wellness? Because there's so many other offerings you could introduce in the mix that are out there that you don't need wellness, you don't need longevity, you don't need any of them. So you really do have to ask, what do you want your guests to feel that they cannot feel anywhere else? Because ultimately, that is what you want them to feel different. You want them to come back to you. And the reason they'll come back to you is because they felt something special that they will not feel anywhere else. And if your wellness offering doesn't help you achieve that feeling, then the differentiation you're looking for, that you're looking for your wellness offering to answer, will never, ever work. So you can create a new wellness offering name. You can create a new service offering. You can add a new piece of equipment. You can bring in AI. You can bring in anything you want. You can call yourself a longevity center. Whatever you offer won't work if the why you are doing it, why you want to use wellness to differentiate yourself, does not fit with how you want them to feel differently in your hotel to anywhere else. The second reason people want to add wellness in their offering tends to be that you want to fix something that is broken. So you have a wellness offering that is underperforming, guests are not returning, the team is struggling, and the revenue is really not what you would have expected. And you believe that creating a new wellness concept, totally overhauling your current wellness concept, will solve the structural problems underneath. And you know, as well as I do, that that's never the case. A new concept that you just plug onto a weak foundation or a unresolved structural problem will not stick. It's like building something on foundations that aren't strong. The problems will resurface. And this time, you'd have just spent an extra amount of money in rehauling your wellness concept. So it's the capex expenses, resources, your team, your energy. And the third reason I see people wanting to change their wellness offering or add a wellness offering, more specifically when they want to change it, is you want to escape from your current situation. When I say that, I mean that where you are right now with your hotel business, it's not how you want it to be. You want it to be very different. And you look at wellness as the savior. that'll come and rescue your underperforming business or your target audience problem, whatever the problem is. And this tends to be the most dangerous reasons of all, because when you are desperate to escape this current business reality, you get very easily seduced by remarkable, visible bling elements. And I talked about this in the previous podcast episode, and I've mentioned it a fair number of times, that we focus purely on the visible elements. The cryotherapy chamber, hyperbaric oxygen. I mean, we want to do all the bling items thinking that that is going to attract a new client, or that is going to help us solve our very messy current situation. And when we try to use wellness or a longevity center or a wellness center to patch this problem, you quickly realize that your organization, so your hotel, the capacity of your team and your current system cannot sustain this amazing wellness offering that you have asked for. And very quickly, that wellness concept becomes another liability in your already messy situation. And none of these reasons of why you would want to rehaul your wellness offering or why you would add one mean that you're doing something wrong as a hotelier. But it does mean that you need to be brutally honest with yourself. Why are you adding that wellness offering? And are you happy with the reason you are implementing it? And if it's reason 3, you're escaping a messy situation, you're about to make a huge investment mistake. Not because wellness doesn't work, and not that the wellness offering you want to add will not work. It's because if you don't fix whatever is not working right now, whatever you build on top of it will never work. And I have seen this happen over the years, I cannot count the number of times it has happened. And I've always wondered, why on earth hasn't this worked? Because we are a good team. We are a solid team. No corners are being cut here. We're all really trying to create an amazing wellness concept. An amazing wellness concept has been created. And then we try to implement it. And then a few years down the line, we find, even when people have amazing teams, that those concepts have not worked. And it all boils down to why. Why are you implementing it? Is it for differentiation? Is it to fix a problem? Or are you trying to escape from something? And answering that honestly will help you and your team. And it'll also help you make a very dangerous investment decision. The second question I use as a filter now with clients is, are you willing and able to see this concept past the finish line? And the finish line is not, I'm going to hire you, Sonal. We're going to create that amazing wellness concept. We will also implement it. Then come back after 1 year or 2 years and let me see that my concept is going well. I'm talking about, are you willing to see that concept and also financially able to see that concept past finish line, past return on investment in 5 to 10 years time. It is so easy to create something amazing, to have that beginner's energy, to have that power, that momentum to want to launch, to enjoy the beginnings of, let's see how it works, to fine tune. But it gets a lot more difficult when your favorite wellness director or your favorite therapist, the people who got your vision, have moved on, better lives, nothing to do with your operation, but people move on. And you've had to hire new people and show them the concept, and they've not gotten in. You've had to go and hire other people, or something is not working, or the market has suddenly shifted. You're going to have to work through all those bumpy rides, through working through that moment where you thought you would get your return on investment, let's say in 10 years' time, and you actually get it in 13 or 14 years' time. Because I always see a gap between projections and when you actually get your return on investment, particularly with wellness offerings. Because we over project what we think we're going to get in terms of revenue, and we under project the costs. We underestimate what it costs to manage a solid wellness offering within a hospitality context. And I'm not saying that food and beverage is cheap. I'm not saying that rooms is cheap either. But wellness has its nuances like any other business. And when I say willing, I mean three things. Are you financially willing? Do you have the resources to implement what you want properly? Are you willing to spend what you would need to spend to sustain your wellness offering between the period of launching your wellness concept and getting the return on investment? The second willing means energetically willing. And this is something we don't tend to ask people because it sounds too woo in terms of a business discussion in a business context. But wellness offering is challenging. Any business is challenging. So this business is no exception. It requires constant attention. It requires constant protection. It requires constant recommitment, constant maintenance. And it will ask you, this wellness offering, to do things that are inconvenient. It will require you to make decisions that cost you something in the short term. And are you willing to give this wellness offering that energy every single day until you see it past the finish line? Even when you might have priorities that have competing interests with your wellness offering. And I'll give a very simple example. And it's a very easy kind of low hanging fruit example to give. Are you willing to tell your VIP client at 10 p.m. at night that, sorry, I cannot make my therapist stay an extra hour or two to give you a treatment? Are you willing to say that my therapist will not do more than 5 hours of treatment in a 10-hour, in an 8-hour shift? Are you willing to make those business decisions that will harm your business in the short term, maybe even annoy some of your guests, in order to protect the long-term viability of your business. And trust me, I have been a wellness director. I continue to have my kind of, as to say, I'm plugged into operations because I love the day-to-day buzz. And I always, always, always want to be on top of it when it comes to operations. And they have evolved so much in the last 20 years. And I have been in situations where I had no other choice but to accept, we don't say no to clients. We will give them what they do and, make my therapist stay longer and give that treatment, totally violating policies. And it's not me violating them. It's a client wants a treatment, they get it. So it requires making those tough decisions that also might seem, oh my God, am I being reasonable here? And what is this going to cost me? And lastly, when I say willing, people willing, do you have the people to steward what you want? And I say not just any old people, the right people. Do you have the right people who are going to protect the concept, who are going to evolve your concept, who are going to live inside it every single day with the same intention it was designed with? Because your concept, how it will look in reality, will never be stronger than the people delivering it. And if the people delivering it do not have the capacity, the skills, the values, the leadership, the concept will shrink to fit them. So, are you willing to kill a few darlings along the way? Are you willing to get the wrong people off the bus and get the right people to sit on the right seats? And those are difficult decisions to make. And I knew, for example, with this client who wanted, very rightly so, a more remarkable wellness offering, I knew that she would not be able to make, like to kill a few darlings across, along the way to get that ultimate destination, and to get that ultimate wellness offering. She would much rather have the wellness offering shrink to the top person's capacity and deal with that and that impact it'll have on the wellness offering instead of dealing with what not having that person would mean to the rest of the business, or the amount of fires she would need to put out if she did not have that person off who she blindly trusted. So it seems like a simple question. Are you willing and able to see your concept past the finish line? What you asked for, are you willing to take it past the finish line? Financially, you can make it work sometimes. Also, energetically, if you've built a hotel, you're clearly not part of the faint-hearted group. You definitely know how to grind. You definitely know how to do the hard thing. And you definitely know that it's not an easy business. The hard thing comes with the people, because you know how hard it is to find people you can trust and will do the job. But if those people end up becoming the ceiling of your future desires, then that is when it gets difficult. And sometimes we would rather, or it feels easier to not go for the goal and instead shrink to fit the capacity of the people who you trust and who will, deliver what you need them to deliver. And the last question I use as a filter is, do you have the capacity and or can you build the capacity to steward the vision you have? Having the vision is the easy part. Now, I'm not saying everyone has solid vision. So if you have the vision, that's amazing. But that's still only part of the equation. And if you have a vision with that capacity, it is just a beautiful concept, an idea that no one can implement. And the distance between your vision and the capacity between what you want to create and what you're actually able to sustain is where most wellness concepts actually fail. And that gap is always going to be present. It's how you manage that gap between vision and capacity. And this is where those tough decisions need to be made. Are you willing and can you build your capacity to do what is required, to make the decisions that are required, your capacity to deal with the consequences of your decisions, your capacity to deal for things when they don't quite go as you expected, the capacity for you to make mistakes because maybe the wellness offering you asked for or want might not give you the result you hoped for. And do you have the people capacity? Are they able to sustain what would be required of them to implement and steward that wellness offering? And that has nothing to do with what I mentioned, people willing. Are you willing to kill the darlings along the way? No, it's, are you willing? Well, can you build that capacity? You might have the right people. They just might not have the capacity yet. And that requires you to build that capacity to get them to a stage where they can actually implement and steward that new concept. And this is where my client had a huge opportunity. And that is why the concept I had presented to her was more of a stepping stone. She had the right people and she needed to help the key person build her capacity in order to take the hotel to a completely different level. And this general manager had been with them, with the family for a good 20 to 30 years and had grown exponentially and stretched herself exponentially. And we're going to ask her after 20, 30 years to do another complete capacity stretch. And that requires a lot of work, a lot of tact, a lot of strategy, a lot of patience over and above the patience you're going to require to have for yourself as you increase your capacity to make the decisions that are required in order to successfully carry your vision and close the gap between what you want and what you think you need to do in order to get what you want in terms of that wellness offering. So, this is what I think every hotelier, I mean, this filter is something you cannot switch off for anything you want to add in your business ultimately. You need to know and answer yourself, ask yourself very honestly and answer it. Are you, the first question is, why are you implementing what you're implementing? Why do you want this wellness offering? And understand, is it for differentiation? That's very valid. Or are you trying to fix something that is broken? Or are you trying to escape from what you have currently? Be very clear. And then ask yourself, are you willing to do what it takes to see what you want past the finish line? Because that's going to require a completely different version of yourself, completely different amount of resources, energetic, financial, people resources to see it past the finish line. And if you don't have your why clear, it will be just like pushing a boulder uphill. And lastly, do you have the capacity to steward what you want? And there's always going to be a gap between your vision and your capacity. And the beauty of why we do business, the beauty of why we do entrepreneurship is we want to close that gap. But just being aware that it's your capacity as well as the people's capacity under you. It's both people's capacity that you will need to build to sustain what you want. So, those are the 3 filter questions you cannot turn off. If you want to firstly design wellness to succeed, and secondly, ensuring that it endures over time, that it is stewarded in a way that it can endure, that you can see it past the finish line. So, I hope you found that useful. Wishing you all a wonderful day ahead. Take care now.